Hello once again, our most developed student. My name is Confident and welcome to our 24-minute lesson. This is the ultimate guide in maths, science, career guidance, as well as a sneak peek into my personal experiences. This is a channel designed with you in mind. Let us dive into today's lesson. As we continue with the revision guide for grade 11, and we are looking now at question number 3 of trigonometry. And just without wasting time, let's look at this question with 4 marks. Question 3.1. It says simplify without the use of a calculator. I keep on telling you guys that the moment you tell me I must not use the calculator, that is when I take the calculator and find out why are you saying I mustn't use a calculator. In other words, I'm simply saying first check, can you use a calculator? Find the answer, then prove that answer. This is 4 marks already, but the question is, why did they make it 4 marks? So if you say here, it's sin negative 20, right? That is that, and then divided by cos 430. Just be curious, find out what is the answer. Look, I'm getting a -1 here. And only to think of this simplified part is -1 and is how many marks? Is 4 marks. The question is, how do they go to that? What's the working behind? So let's look at it. It says you are given sin -20 over cos 430 degrees. Okay, so now the part here, what you have to understand is these are the reduction rules, and you are using the what? You are using the CAS diagram. You have to have your CAS diagram ready. So if I can quickly have that, I keep on emphasizing to you guys to say the CAS diagram helps you to solve simplified problems. So there is it, 180, 270 and 360. You quickly sketch it, and then this is quadrant 1, your quadrant 2, your quadrant 3 and your quadrant 4. Remember, it's anti-clockwise, and from there you know it's all students here, all students take chemistry. And the reduction rules that you need to know and remind yourself is here it's before 90, so it's 90 minus theta. After 90 it's 90 plus theta, or you have 180 minus theta, and then after 180 it's 180 degrees plus theta, and here it's before 360, so it's 360 minus theta. These are the reduction rules. Quick one. Now you can be able then to apply the reduction rules. Let's look at each one of them. Let's start with this one, which is sin -20. Now when you deal with negative angles, you must ask yourself, what are negative angles? And negative angles, what it means is the normal rotation is anti-clockwise, we are moving that direction, but now when you start dealing with negative angles, the rotation changes. Now you are now moving clockwise. I've seen that. And when you are clockwise, you are going to fall on the 4th quadrant where only cos is positive, sine is negative, tan is negative. Hence here, when you say what is sine negative, right, you can even test it. Take a calculator and say to yourself, I want to know the sign behind sine negative. So you take a calculator, you say sine -20. You can use any number as long as it is less than 90. See, the key part, don't worry with the answer, focus on the sign. It's negative. You can even change and say, what about if it was 60 degrees but -60 degrees? All right, -60 degrees equal to, see, negative, so it keeps on having a negative. So here you maintain that this is same as negative sine 20. Very important, they will mark you that. That's the first part. What about cos 430? Now with cos 430 degrees, also you remind yourself, what is the complete revolution? Is 360. So this is same as saying cos, the complete revolution is what? 360 degrees. What must we add so that we get 430? You subtract the two numbers. So in other words, you are saying 430 minus 360. Are you with me? So when you subtract it, it's 70. So it's 360 plus 70 degrees. When I add that, I'll get cos 430. Now, since it's a complete revolution, after rounding and I come back to 360, the next quadrant, you can see that I'm back again, rotating. That is quadrant number 1. So I'm going to then simple. What you do is, this is same as cos 70, because it's now all, which is in the first quadrant. Then from there, you can now simplify this part here. I can bring it in together to say this part here becomes equal to what? We said this is negative sine 20 over what? Cos 70. I see what I'm having here. So here you can see the negative is already there for our -1. How do we get to -1 here? So what you do, you look at the 2, look at the, if I say 20 plus 70, it gives you 90. This must tell you that when you add the 2, you are dealing with cofunctions. Okay, when you deal with that, you are dealing with cofunctions, and you are in quadrant 1 and 2, 90. So what you need to do, 70 is in quadrant 1, and you can say 70 is same as cos, it's 90 minus theta. So if I can come here and say minus, there are two ways here, minus sine 20 over cos, and then I'll say 90 minus, you see, that's what I'm using here, 90 minus theta. So 90 minus, what must I subtract? I must subtract 20 to get what? 70. 90 minus 20 is 70. That's the reduction rule of the first quadrant. Are you seeing that? If I say 90 minus 20, I'll get that 70. But don't forget, this is a cofunction. Remember, on the cofunction, it says cos 90 minus theta. What is it? It's sine theta. Cos becomes sine, and the opposite is true. Sine 90 minus theta, what does it become? It becomes cos theta. You see that? Apologies guys for the background noise. I just wanted to bring this to you as I was already starting with part 1, part 2. Now this is the third part. So look at this. This is same as saying minus sine 20 over, again, cos 90. Cos becomes sine 20. Alright, I think that. Then at this stage I can cancel out to get 1. Hence the answer is -1. I think that. Also, had you wanted to change instead sine on top, you're going to say minus sine, and then you're going to say 90 minus 70. Now when you change the first one, don't change the second one, because you'll keep on rotating in one place. When you change the top, don't change the bottom, over cos 70. Don't change both. You need to choose which one you're going to change. Now 90 minus 70 sine, so it's minus, remember sine becomes cos 70 over cos 70. So one way or the other, it was also going to give you a -1. So that is that. Let's not waste time there. Cofunctions were the order of the day. Look at the next one. That was 4 marks. I don't think it was really something very hard. It was something that you can capitalize on your exam. If you are given this one without using a calculator, simplify to a single trigonometric ratio, again without using a calculator, and then they give you this. Now it's 5 marks. Now look at this. They are saying, well, let's write this down first. I'm given 1 plus sine x 10 180 minus x dot cos, again that is -x, another negative angle. You seeing that? So it's sine, 1 plus sin x dot 10 that dot, so everything is multiplying. Alright, if I bring this guy also here and say 5 marks, what makes this 5 marks? Let's look at each item here. Again, remember, this is still based, unfortunately I took away my cast diagram, but if you can bring back the cast diagram, you'll remember something that I want to show you here, to say on the cast diagram. Now this was 180. Okay, I'm interested here. That's where you got 180. Okay, this is plus theta, but here is 180 minus theta. This is quadrant 2, and this is 1, 2, that is 3, that is 4. And then remember, on the cast, it's all students take chemistry. So now, when I'm just quickly reminding here to say, I told you when you are having negative, let's start with the simple one, negative, we are moving this direction, and we're in quadrant number 4, and see, cos is positive, so which means cos negative x is simple what? Is simple cos x. You can choose a number, choose any number. For example, let's say 20, you say cos negative 20, focus on the sign, you say it's positive, that is what can give you the signs. What about 180 minus x? Where are we? We're in this quadrant. 180 minus theta. You see, 10 here is negative because only sin is positive. So 10 is negative. So which means if you give me 10, 180 minus x, I'll get what? Negative 10x. I think that is what needed for now to be simplified. But also, you can move on. Okay, let me write it before exchanging, but you can remind yourself that what is 10 is negative sine x over cos. 10 is sin over cos. Don't forget that. But let's first write everything. When you take it from here, you are going to say, let's take it from there, which is equal to 1 plus sin x times, let's start with the top, negative 10x. Is better to put it in brackets like that, and then dot cos is simple cos x. Are you with me? And then we continue, which is equal to 1 plus sin x times, now we can convert it to this one now, which is negative sine x over cos x dot cos x. I think that's where now this was the better way to take it out. Now don't forget, as I say, this is more like in brackets. It's not minus, there is a times there. So what you are actually saying, which is equal to 1 plus sin x times minus sin x, is negative. So the plus here is affected by that negative. It becomes minus sine squared x. I think that. So with this, you remind yourself, okay, this must look familiar to you because it comes from what? Cos squared x plus what? Sine squared x. You must know this identity. You must always know it. It's equal to 1. Then if I take sin to the other side, it's cos squared x is equal to 1 minus what? Minus sin squared x. See, that's what we are having here. So this then becomes equal to cos squared x. Then that becomes what? That becomes the simplified version of that 1 minus sin squared x, which is that. So that is that. It could have been simplified into that. Alright, so let's move on to the next question here, just to finish it up. 6 marks. 3.3. If tan theta plus 1 is equal to 0 and cos theta is greater than 0, calculate without the use of a calculator again and with the aid of a diagram the value of that. 6 marks. Now, first of all, they said already no calculator, but the key part here is use a diagram, guys. That's where they want to see there is a mark for the diagram, and you cannot solve such a question without a diagram. So let's come back here and say, if I'm to plot a diagram, but you can't just plot a diagram. Let's start with this. You are given 3 tan theta plus 1 equal to 0, and there is a condition. Listen to this. Cos theta, what did they tell us? Is greater than 0. So what is greater? Anything greater than 0 is what? You just need to be able to interpret that because it must make sense. Now they're saying cos is greater or cos is bigger than 0. Cos is bigger, meaning what? Cos is bigger than 0, meaning the every part of cos is positive. You'll never find negative cos. Okay, cos is positive. Cos must be positive. Now I'm saying that for a reason. I'm repeating that cos must be greater than 0, meaning cos can only be positive. Now let's solve here for theta, not for theta actually. take 1 to the other side. We have got 3 tan theta is equal to what? Positive 1 become negative 1. Now what do? Divide by 3, divide by 3, so that you have your tan theta is equal to negative 1 over 3. I don't want you to be tempted to say the negative sign belongs to the top, because that's where you need to be careful on here. I'll say NB. Don't write it like this. Don't write it like this and say is equal to minus 1 over 3, as if the minus is negative, because you don't know. It must be in front. Your diagram will tell us where that cos is. So what you do now, when they were saying sketch for us, that's where you're coming in with a sketch here. And remember, your sketch in a way has got, it's more of the cast diagram, but here you've got your y and your x, and you need to understand the SOHCAHTOA. Remember, tan, just this is information, tan theta is equal to, in terms of SOHCAHTOA, remember TOA is adjacent over hypotenuse. But now what is adjacent? I mean, not sorry about this. Tan is opposite over, it's TOA. Tan is opposite over adjacent. Now what is opposite? Opposite, you must also know that opposite represent y over adjacent represent x. So you must know tan theta is y over x. So this is the adjacent, this is the opposite. So now when you can identify this, then I can come here and say the 1 there, what does it represent? The 1 represents the y-axis, and this one represents the x-axis. But the question is now, which one will take the negative and which one will take the positive? Now, they told us the hint. Cos will always be positive. Greater, I just said greater than 0, meaning cos will always be positive. And where is cos positive? You come to your cast diagram. All students take chemistry. Cos is positive is either in the first quadrant or in the fourth quadrant. It can't be there because cos is negative, it's less than 0. Here, you can even write cos here is less than 0. Why? Because it's negative. Even here, so it can't be there. Even on the second quadrant, it can't. So it's quadrant 1 and 4. So since my diagram is going to be in quadrant 1 and quadrant number 4, now let's start to see what makes sense. If I'm to draw, say in quadrant 1, let's assume it's in quadrant 1, and let's assume it's in quadrant number 4 here. Alright, let's assume this was the diagram. Now the question will be, which one makes sense? Now in quadrant number 1, if it's in quadrant number 1, everything will be positive. X is positive, y is positive. So you see, there is no way I will get a negative answer here. And to make things easier, what is 10? 10 is negative, and 10 is negative even in the fourth quadrant. You see, there are different ways for you to easily choose. So you can see that even if I'm to draw my quadrant in the first quadrant, it does not qualify. Yes, cos is positive, yes, but 10 is negative. So here I will cancel out because 10 is negative here, minus 10. So which means my diagram deserves to be in this quadrant, and you'll see how easy it does in that quadrant. And then from that, remember how you mark it. Start from the x-axis, go anti-clockwise and do that, and then you call that particular part theta. They want to see that, and they don't want to see this. You must not leave this. You just have to have a nice clear diagram that is not having some stuff, because you are sketching, right? And then you now can tell us, remember, if I can do this here like this, and I can do this, I just want to show you now what you do. You put it in like this, and then these are dotted lines. So you can then, now from here you can tell then that if this x is my 3, then I'll go here and have my x being 3, my y being negative 1. You see, so when I'm writing here, x, remember, is 3 and y is negative 1. Then from here I am then needed to find my r, because this is your r. Then what do I do? Is the theorem of Pythagoras. R squared is x squared plus y squared, and then r is equal to square root, you can say plus or minus if you want, square root of x squared plus what? Plus y squared. And then r is equal to, but you know what is your x? X is what? Plus or minus square root of x is, remember x is positive, is 3 squared plus y is negative 1 squared. And then if you do that, r is equal to plus or minus 3 squared is 9, so it's square root of 9 plus 1, which is equal to, r cannot be negative, r is always positive, which is square root of 10. So here you have got r being square root of 10. Now when you've done this, you have done the heavy lifting here, you can then come here and write that question now that they asked, to say what is 30 sine squared theta plus square root of 40 cos theta. Apologies guys again for the background noise. Just wanted to bring you this, as I said, as quick as possible. Now you come here and say which is 30. Now to do this question then requires you to remind yourself again of SOHCAHTOA. Remember, so means what? So means, since I've got sine there, so it's sine theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Now my opposite is y, my hypotenuse is what? Is r in terms of x, y, and r. Again, my cos there is car, it's car, and with car meaning cos theta is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, but in terms of x, y, and r, adjacent means x, hypotenuse means r. So that's what you are having now here, whereby it will be 30, then this squared means you put it there, but sine is y over r plus square root of 40, the cos is x over r. Then you just substitute the values there, which is equal to 30. And then what is your y? You come back and remind yourself the y was negative 1, the x was 3. So y is negative 1 over r is square root of 10, remember? Then that is a squared plus 40, and then the x is what? Our x was positive 3 over, this is square root of 40 over square root of 10. So this is what you're having, which is equal to, remember you're not supposed to use a calculator, so try to work it out like this, and then this is negative 1 over square root of 10 again times another negative 1 over square root of 10. That's the square part here, right? Plus if you are to work on this, look at this, we have got square root of 40. Now square root of 40, you need to pick that the square root of 40 is same as square root of 4 times square root of 10. You see, that is 4 times 10. Why? So that you get rid of 3 over square root of 10. They wanted to check if you can pick that this part here, if I can put it there, they wanted to pick that, can you cancel this part here, to say that and that will go, and then square root of 4, you know, it's 2. So but in a calculator you can actually do this and say, what will I get if I say square root of 40 over square root of 10? See that? Then you say you get 2. So that is the 2 you get there. When you cancel out that, you just get 2, but you multiply 2 times 3 at the end. But now when you continue, this is equal to 30. Negative 1 is positive 1. Square root of 10 becomes positive 10. Plus 2 times 3 is 6. I sing that. And then you continue here. 10 into 30 is 3. 3 plus 6, you get your answer as 9. So I got my answer as 9. Now what if I wanted to test, because they say don't use a calculator, but the question is, can I use a calculator here? Yes, you can use a calculator. What you do is, remember what is 10? 10 theta is negative 1 over 3. So you can actually use a calculator and say, if 10 theta is equal to negative 1 over 3, what is theta? It's arc10. Remember, arc10 negative 1 over 3. So let's find the answer of arc10 negative 1 over 3. What will it give us? So you shift arc10 negative 1 over 3. It's always important to test these answers. It's negative 18 point, let me take the longest, negative 18.4349. Negative 18.4349. Right. Now, if I use it there, where there is theta, I must what? Where there is theta, I must put this value of negative 18. So let's use that, because now I'm using the calculator, but be careful whenever you are using sine squared. So this is how you do it. 30, better to say times, bracket, sine, remember, you write this as sine negative 18.4349, close it. But now, did I open? Yes, I opened the bracket. Now I need to close another bracket and put my squared outside, because I can't do a square in between sine and theta. And then it's plus square root of 40. You see that? 40 times cos. Now my theta again is negative 18.4349. Then I can close that, equal to, see, I'm getting 8.99999, which is what? Almost 9. So this is equal to 9. And that's the answer, guys, I got there. So you can test actually this if you're correct. Now, guys, we've come to the end of our lesson. We'll do also question 4, which is a Euclidean. But as I say, there's noise in the background. I'm going to bring this in the earliest possible. If you guys benefiting, of course, give me a shout. Do you want me to do question number 4? If yes, you will show by responding to say, please give us question 4. If you guys are not responding, it means possible there is no one who was actually interested in question number 4. But I will encourage you, give me your comments, give me your ideas. We have come to the end of our lesson. Thank you.